Hi, welcome back to Mental Breakdown. I'm Anon Mayer and I'm your host. Today, I'm joined by Adia Williams, and we are going to be talking about what clients should be discussing in therapy to make the most of the therapeutic hour. We're diving into the why the real breakthroughs always live right behind the uncomfortable stuff. We're unpacking how to bring up those awkward, messy topics that are usually swept under the rug or avoided. And most importantly, we are talking about how to face and unpack shame directly in the therapy room without running for the door. If you've ever sat on your therapist's couch wondering where to start, or have been hiding the hardest parts of your story, or maybe you're even considering therapy, but it's a little bit scary, this episode is for you. Let's get into it.
All right. So I are here today. We are going to chat a little bit couples therapy. And we are going to start with what couples should be doing in couples therapy in order to, I think, have the most productive, effective of therapy time, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, I think that sounds great. I love this topic today because I feel like this is something, not even just with couples, but therapy in general. It's like we want our clients to get the absolute most out of sessions. Like if you are using your time and resources to come, like let's maximize that time so that we're like actually making progress and talking about all the things, you know?
Yeah. And I love that because I feel like sometimes we have clients that come in that maybe are like scared to things because they don't want to like dump stuff on us or ties us, or they think something is kind of like off limits, or maybe they don't know how to talk about some of the more difficult, comfortable conversations. But really, I always encourage clients, I'm like, give me everything because that's going to help me show up as a therapist the best I can for you as a client.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And I also try to say that in the beginning too. Like nothing is off limits to talk about and nothing is like too much information. But the more information I have, then we can actually like develop a treatment plan that makes the most sense. But if I don't have the information, then, there's going to be times probably where we hit walls. But I do think that naturally happens, even if a client comes in and is like, I'm ready to talk about all the things. Like sometimes you don't know the things that are even there until you kind of like get into the weeds of it. But yeah, I love this topic because I feel like it applies to therapy just in general.
Yeah. Well, and I think we really encourage clients because I think sometimes we get couples. I know I have. I'm sure you have too, where they come in and it's like everything's great. And it's like, okay, why are you here? Like we can talk about what's great, and that would be wonderful. But usually it's come in crisis, and then it's like go back to like a superficial level. And it's like, that is not going to maximize your time in therapy. It's not going to help you get to where you want to be if we're ignoring the issues.
Totally. Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely hear that sometimes. And, it's so every situation is so different. Like sometimes couples come in, like you had talked about, like in that like active crisis mode. Sometimes couples come in because they're like, hey, we just want to like boost the relationship even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we're probably similar in this way. If that is something that feels really obvious, like there is an elephant in the room that we're not talking about, I will usually just call that out. Like,
Yeah.
that is really surprising because I remember this topic that we started diving into. Like what changed between last session and this session that feels like everything is amazing. And like that's awesome. We want there to be improvement and amazing and communication, all the stuff, but kind of just getting into that on a deeper level.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that. Like we want things like positive progress. So we want clients to come in and say, things are going really well, or this thing really worked, or I've noticed these improvements. But I think where it's is when maybe there's like a close one session and then everything's fine. And then there's crisis and everything's fine. And it's crisis. And so like every other session fluctuates between like emergency and avoidance of the issue. And I think sometimes, well, things are good. So like, I don't want to go back and pack this really uncomfortable, hard topic. But I think that's when we need to for part, because otherwise we're not changing their dynamic or their cycle.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad that you said that because that's something that I hear a lot. And I mean, it makes sense. I think that's human nature. Like, we don't want to be in uncomfortable situations and having like hard conversations. And when things feel smoother, it's like, I don't want to poke the bear. I don't want to like reopen this wound. And I will always validate that. Like, I get that that's scary. Like, I get that that's a hard thing to talk about. And you're here. And that's what couples therapy is for. Like, you have a therapist here with you to guide
Mhm.
that unpacking in a way that's not going to feel the same outside of the therapy room so that we can actually like address those things. But yeah, that is something that comes up a lot. It's like, especially when conflict has been more frequent or conflict gets really escalated, it's like, yeah, you want to avoid that. And then we end up kind of just doing band-aids on things if we're not addressing this like deeper issue. So the band-aids help to a degree. It's like we can stop and, we can lessen the frequency of arguments. We can lower the temperature of arguments, but we're still going to kind of keep hitting that wall if we're missing this whole root of the problem.
Yeah. So, what would like a band aid be for somebody that is listening and has no idea about like couples therapy or therapy in general? Because, like, I band aids is like, here are 3 coping skills I want you to try to use, or here's a strategy to take a time out when there's an argument. Are there ones that you're thinking of too, Adia?
No, I love that you said that. And my brain also went to coping skills. And I want to also mention coping skills are great. Communication skills are great. Like, I'm not downplaying that with the band-aid thing. Like, band-aids are helpful, it stops the bleeding. It makes, it whatever. But I almost think of it like, I guess what comes to my mind is if there is like, say there's like a relationship betrayal that's happened.
Yeah.
We have like talked about or processed, or there is something that happens in conflict every time that like on a deeper level is really hurtful in the relationship. Like, there is some kind of like deeper emotional pain or maybe like traumas that we haven't talked about. I almost think of it, and this is a really gross metaphor, but this is just sometimes how
Go
I
for it. Everything is safe. Bring it all up, even in the podcast. Talk about it all.
like, I think about like a root canal. It's like if you have this like rot and this infection at the root of your tooth and you are just like brushing your teeth every day, that helps. Like, the maintenance of brushing your teeth and flossing every day is helping to a degree. But if you're not actually like getting in there and like cleaning that out and addressing, I know it's gross. I don't know why.
No,
It's like
I'm making a face because I
the way my
the
brain
dentist.
is moving.
It's not about grossness. I'm like, God, I have anxiety even when I go in for like cleaning. So just me having a
Oh
reaction.
yeah, I forgot you have dentist trauma. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Triggering with the podcast. But yeah, I kind of think of it like that though. It's like if we're not like we can do the things are helpful. The coping skills are helpful, absolutely. And sometimes, a lot of times actually, the coping skills and the band-aids and stuff actually do need to be there before we go to
Initially.
the root sometimes because
Yeah.
it's like that's not always the safest, emotionally safest route to just like rip the band-aid off and get to the root of the trauma, like session 1 2. And you want to be mindful about like we're feeling okay about this process and pacing and all that stuff. But that's kind of how I see band-aids. It's like
Yeah.
we can keep the maintenance of things, but we're kind of avoiding this thing that's like sitting at the root of the problem. And we can ignore it for a little bit, but it's gonna
But
come
it's going
up.
to be
Gonna
causing
have
pain.
right, exactly. And it's gonna seep into other things.
Yeah. No, I really like that analogy, even though I have dentist trauma. And you're right, because, there are going to be or even just individual clients, family clients that come in where we're going to know, everybody in the room is going to know what needs to be worked on. It's not a secret, right? Like with the betrayal or something like that. But the family or the couple or the individual might not have the emotional regulation skills or the bandwidth to be able to tolerate the discomfort that's going to happen when we start to go down to that root layer. And
Mhm.
so that is something for anybody listening, if you're working with a good therapist, they are going to be constantly assessing that just kind of in the back of their brain of how much can my client tolerate? And I think you and I are similar, Adia, in our therapy styles, where we will just be open with clients about, here are my observations. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, let me give you a peek behind the curtain so we can all be
Mhm.
on the same page and collaborate about what's going to be best for the clients.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that like laying that out too in the beginning helps a lot with the couples therapy process and that comfort level of like, this is kind of what you can expect. A lot of assessing in the first few sessions and just kind of information gathering,
Yeah.
figuring out what's going on, figuring out some of the patterns.
Yeah.
We talked about this before probably, but I think we both tend to sit back a little bit more in those first couple sessions to just see like what is
Mhm.
naturally going on as I'm like asking questions and like getting information, maybe not like jumping in and interrupting patterns quite as much because it is helpful for us to see like what does this kind of look like when you guys start getting heated, because then that's then helpful down the line when we are getting more into the weeds of stuff and talking about
Yeah.
bigger things to know like, okay, this is kind of what happens here. And then we'll get into it, with the all the interrupting and all the pausing.
For sure. I always tell clients like the first couple times I'm kind of taking a seat back, like I'm observing, I'm taking notes, I'm kind of conceptualizing. I might ask clarifications. And then after that, I'm going to be all up in your business. Like I'm going to be jumping in, I'm going to be interrupting, I'm going to be directing, I'm going to maybe stop you saying something if I feel like it's going to be harmful. But you're right, it is kind of that sitting back. And I think we do that with individual clients too, where it's like, again, we're information gathering. It's like we're on this like expedition to get all of this information so that we can figure out what we think is going to be the best clinical approach. Obviously
Yeah.
with collaboration with the clients too.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you, Manon, like what do you think in your experience couples tend to like avoid talking about the most? They kind of are like, ooh, this is like a topic that's there a lot of times for people, but usually for a lot of people gives that feeling of like, oh, I don't know if we can talk about this in session.
So I think sex is something either couples or it's like the main reason to therapy or they completely avoid talking. And I don't know if that's been your experience, Adia, but it's that. And then sometimes I'm trying to think how to word this because I feel like sometimes it's not major betrayal, like annoyances. And it's like, well, I don't want to bring because it's not that big of a deal. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is part of their cycle or it's part of compounding problem. So it's that. And
Yeah,
I hope that made sense because it made more sense
totally.
in my brain.
No, it made sense when you said it out loud. I so when I like asked you that question, what I literally had in my mind was I feel like sex and intimacy related
Mhm.
topics
Yeah.
or those things that tend to be really hard for couples to talk about. I guess another thing that kind of came to my mind was sometimes finances gets in the weeds
Yeah.
depending, especially if there's like individual histories of financial trauma in some way. Like I think that can be a really like hot button topic for people that makes people feel really uncomfortable. Insecurity comes to my mind. I think that's a hard one for people to talk about.
I think abuse history too, maybe from like
Yeah.
childhood or previous relation. Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah, and it's like
insecurity one makes because there's so much shame that's tied to it that's probably one of the hardest thing as humans to talk
totally.
about what we feel shame about.
Yeah, and shame is such a like freezing emotion to have. Like it shuts us down and then that builds. It's like as we avoid it, it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times people are almost like scared to say something out loud because if I say it out loud, does that make it more real? And then
Yeah.
because of that, we kind of avoid it and we don't talk about it. And then really what happens is the opposite of what we want. And then the brain is really like sitting with this and stewing in it and it's growing and it's growing and it's growing. And because
Mhm.
it's growing in this like dark space, we don't have
Yeah.
any of those like checks and balances in place to keep that like, that reality check
Mhm.
almost thing. So sometimes then the shame kind of runs wild. I feel like that was like the most wordy explanation. I don't even know if that made sense. But
I love it. Well, Brene Brown talks about shame like a petri dish full of like bacteria or
Mhm.
like gross stuff that grows in darkness. And so she'll say, like, if you just keep it in the darkness in the petri dish, it's going to continue to get bigger.
I
Like
love
if
it.
we just keep it internally, it's gonna keep growing. We're going to stew in it. We're going to reinforce shame, the negative beliefs, the insecurities. But if we can like let it out into the light of day, and with a trusted, safe person, because there are going to be people that should not have access to that. Like with your partner, hopefully, friends, with family members, with your therapist, like being able to do that and get validate and reassurance and safety is the best thing to kill shame.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love the way that you described that. That was exactly how I wanted to describe that. I just didn't have a dish example.
From
You're
Brene
just
Brown.
a metaphor.
No, I stole it from Brene Brown. So I would love to for it, but it is not my work. So that was all her. Well, and I
No, but
think,
I love that. And I tell couples all the time, like, I know that this thing is really hard, but that is where we make such a shift. I
yeah.
think that turning towards moment when everything in us is like, shut down and hold this in and don't talk about the feeling, the
Mhm,
courage to be vulnerable is such a game changer in those moments.
for sure.
Sometimes, like, the courage to just say, like, I'm feeling so insecure right now,
Mhm.
and this is what's coming up for me. It lessens it
Yeah.
a little. It's like we think saying it out loud makes it more real, but it's like actually just it's lifting it up a little bit.
Yeah. And I think shame touches so much of you as therapist. Thinking about couples, there's shame sometimes or a lot of times around intimacy. There's shame, like if there's a betrayal. So betrayals for anybody listening, if you're one to be like infidelity, it could be addiction. It could be dishonesty. It could be like a mate time where your partner didn't show up, like postpartum, maybe partner didn't show up, or I was stranded, couldn't reach my partner, and I couldn't reach my partner, and I'm completely alone. Like those can be betrayals. And so there is kind of a gamut of what we're looking for. Typically, the one who's done the injuring, a lot of shame, but it often comes out as like defensiveness or anger or shut down. And then like the one that's been injured also, and it comes out like insecurities of like, I don't matter. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I'm not important, different things like that. And so us as therapists, we're always kind of tracking in the back of our brain too, and being able to maybe slowly kind of like walk into that with,
I love that.
yeah. And sometimes I'll just kind of throw it out there like, oh, yeah, like it would make sense if you felt A, B, C, or D and just kind of see what lands, especially when there's like therapeutic rapport. And I feel like I do get a good sense of what is going on with the clients. But sometimes that's even helpful to just put link to it because I think sometimes clients don't have link for what they're actually feeling because not everybody
Mhm.
talks like a therapist like we do probably every day of our lives. So,
So true. Like a lot of, there's a lot of moments in therapy of giving language that
mhm.
is more effective. And in that, I always tell clients, like, it doesn't need to be said exactly like this. Like, it doesn't need to come out in this like clinical, perfect way. Like, nobody is perfect at communication, including the therapists. Like, sometimes shit happens. It
For
doesn't need to
sure.
be perfect, but I think there is something so connecting for people seeing somebody try. Even if like you are actively trying to talk about this in a different way, even if it's not being said in this, I'm putting air quotes, like perfect clinical way,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really makes a difference just slowing things down and trying different language. And I always encourage couples too, like if it comes out a type of way that you don't want it to come out, like you can say in that moment, I retry that? Like now that I just heard myself say that and that is not what I
That's
wanna
not what I
that's not what I
meant.
wanna say. That didn't sound like how I intended
Yeah.
to go back, and retry it. Because it's also about practice. Everybody has a
Mhm.
communication difference, and so a lot of these
Yeah.
patterns and stuff feel really weird when you start doing them because it's new. It's like you're not
Yeah.
gonna be amazing at it. It's like learning a different language. You're not just gonna know. But
Yeah.
practice makes it easier over time and more natural over time. So sometimes couples I don't know if you've ever had people tell you this, Manon. They're like, it just feels like, I don't know, like it feels like it's like therapy talk, like if I say that, which I get that. It gets more natural over time and you are still trying. Like seeing that person try to slow down and do it in a different way in itself means a lot in the
Mhm.
relationship because it's like, okay, I see that you're trying.
Yeah.
We're working on a different pattern here.
Yeah. Well, and I have like 3 thoughts at one time when you say that because I love that so much. Even as therapists, we're fluent in the language therapy speak. And even we get wrong, whether it's in session, whether it's on our
Yeah.
personal life. And so we're typically encouraging clients to do things that we've also tried and have work not only personally but with all of our experience with clients.
Yeah.
And I think I like to really validate for clients even though it gets like easy as awkward, sometimes it's still uncomfortable. Like that dessert might not ever fully go away, but really is that practice of dipping into it a little bit more, having a corrective experience with your partner where they can show up differently. And so that way, you're creating this different dynamic. And that's a lot of what we do in couples therapy. We're going to have enactments to help couples work through maybe a triggering moment with kind of our guidance and help and direction so that they can practice that different language and have something different happen. Clients
Yeah,
sometimes will be like, I already did that. And I'm like, okay, but like try it again this way. Like you might have thought you already did this, but we're asking you to go a little bit deeper. We're asking you to be a little bit more vulnerable. Like there really is a method to our madness. So kind of going with that.
totally. And I like that you validate that. Like, it is over time, there's moments that it gets easier. There's going to be moments that it's still triggering or that it feels really uncomfortable. And we are all creatures of habit. That's like our wiring is to kind of repeat things because it's familiar and that feels safer. And so, even if everything in your logical brain is like, yes, this communication strategy that my therapist told me on Tuesday would be helpful. And let me slow down and try this. It's like everything in you in those moments when you're triggered is like, well, that doesn't feel safe. That's brand new. Like
Yeah.
what I go to do is shut down and push you out. You know what I mean? And so if everything in your nervous system is telling you like shut down, turn away from your partner, and your therapist is like, practice pausing and letting them know what you're feeling,
Yeah. Even saying that.
feel horrible. It's
Yeah.
gonna feel horrible. It's gonna feel really different. And to the nervous system, that feels really scary. And that's not like a you problem. That's like human
Everybody.
nature. We all want familiar stuff. That's why cycles are so hard to break. Our brains actually prefer something that is familiar, even if it's
Hmm.
toxic,
Hmm.
something that is healthy for us because it's brand new. It's like, we can't predict that. I don't know what this feels like. Like, this feels different and that feels scary.
Well, and that's why a lot of times people stay in unsafe relationships, and there's a ton of studies on it because it's like, well, this is like my known familiar, like it's my norm.
Yeah.
So what if it's worse? What if biggest mistake? And so even on something that's maybe bigger and like more unsafe in that way, it just changing communication too. But you said, everything in me wants to turn away right now and shut down. And so I know we that moment would encourage clients to like, can you even chat with your partner? Even if you don't share anything else, that's still a tiny shift towards them.
Yes.
That's changing the dynamic. I don't know what to say right now. Like I'm feeling overwhelmed and I want to be here for you, but I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. Or I'm really angry and I'm really trying to like take a minute and calm down. Again, it's changing that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I feel like I talk about those bridging phrases and bridging. I call them bridging because it's like, I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, again, we all do this, like get in our heads about being like, I need to say it this perfect way or I need to say it in this way. And emotions are overwhelming sometimes. And
And they're not
they're
logical.
not logical, and especially, like, we don't just as a society in general, and I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole, but don't have a lot of, like, education on our emotions and how to hold space for them and how to, like, feel them, and so, if you are experiencing something that is totally flooding, and that can feel so
Yeah.
confusing, but, like, when I say flooding, I'm just gonna give an example, if people don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you literally get this, like, pit in your stomach, or maybe your heart starts racing, or maybe you just feel like you shrunk down and you are like so small and shameful, whatever it is. A lot of times, like Manon, you had said, it's not like this logical feeling all the time. It's so hard for people to then translate that to their partner. Like, it's often not going to be this, I honestly, when you said that, I started feeling this and then I got really small. And I think that comes from this place. Like, it doesn't need to look like that. It can literally be this bridge them into what is that first thing that you noticed. Like, honestly, when you said that, I just got a pit in my stomach and I don't know why. But like
Yeah.
I think I need to like pause for a second. Can I go get a sip of water? Like I need to just pause. I don't know what I'm feeling. But
Mhm.
that is a massive step differently than shutting down completely. And I'm not saying the bridge
Yeah.
is easy, but it is an example of where it doesn't have to be this like, I perfectly understand what's even happening for me to still let your partner in.
Yeah. Well, and the bridge keeps that open somewhat, And I think with what you're saying, Adia, it's like, okay, so for the partner who's like, I have this, like, I don't know why, encourage them to be able to go take 15 minutes and really sit with what's coming up. Where is this coming from? Are there thoughts? Are there feelings? Have you felt like this before? And then come back to your partner and have that. And here's what I think got triggered. Or
Yeah.
if you still don't know, it's like, hey, don't know what happened. I to be okay. Can we talk about it in therapy the next? Or I'm going to keep thinking about it and I'm going to see you and things like that. So there are a lot of different tips and tricks that we can give that couples outside of therapy too.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think, kind of switching back to what couples don't always talk about, I think they don't always sex. And I think sometimes they're like, can I talk about it here? Like, am I allowed to talk about this? And we're, yes, you're not going to scare us.
No.
Like, you can,
This is the place.
we don't,
Like, this is your
yeah.
space. Like, there is nothing off limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like sex, especially for people, I feel like gets really wrapped up in that, like, shame, insecurity
Like
piece. Um,
taboo.
Totally,
Mhm.
especially depending on how the client was brought up, what some of their beliefs and values are, what their parents' beliefs and values are, what society's beliefs and values are, like, all those kinds of things I think get wrapped up in
History,
that.
sexual history too.
Sexual history, yeah, totally, and it's like, I think sometimes people can feel like it is this, like, really off limits topic, and my approach to that is, like, really validating that, like, this is the space. Like, if there's a space, it's couples therapy, that's a part of and
Yeah.
just being as, like, just open and natural about that as possible so that my clients feel comfortable because it is something that, like, your therapist wants to talk about those things with you. That's a part of the relationship, if that's something that is,
Yeah.
like, impacting you guys, like, let's talk about that. It's not uncomfortable for us, and I think sometimes the scariest part is, like, bringing it up, and then when you see your therapist not react because 'cause they're like,
Not have
"Yeah,
reaction.
talk about your sex life, let's get in there." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
then like, "Oh, okay, that's actually not like, it doesn't need to be scary. Like, this
Yeah.
is also just, like, a human being who I'm talking to about this, who can help us in this area."
I have clients that are like, "Can I talk this with you? Is that weird?" And I'm like, "No, like, you can totally talk about it. I don't care." Mine clients like, "I worked with sex offender years. Like, I doubt what you're gonna tell me is worse than sexual offenses." You know what I mean? So, like, tell me all the things. I promise you I'm not gonna have a reaction to it.
There is no TMI.
And a lot of
That's
yeah. Well, and a lot of times I'll, like, use, like, actual language. So we'll
yeah.
out, like intercourse, orgasm, masturbation, penis, vagina, butts, instead of like kind of like skirting around it, I guess.
Yeah. And I love that you do that. And that is the approach I take too, because I feel like there is something about, and that's part of that therapeutic relationship. Like, as a human, like, if you're like really nervous about something and like so scared to bring it up, and then the person like holds space for that and is really comfortable with it, like,
Mm.
your fears don't scare me away. Like, we're good. We can talk about this. Like, I can be that sounding board. I think that makes clients feel so much more comfortable. So, like, I get the
Hmm.
question, like, I don't know if I can bring this up, or sometimes people will say, like, this might be like TMI, and like,
Yeah.
like, if you have any concern and it makes you feel more comfortable bringing it up to check in about that, go for it. But I
Do it.
will tell you,
Yeah.
there is nothing that's too much information. Like, we've heard it all.
We have. We really have. We could write a book probably with all the things, which probably can't because of confidentiality. But Adia, I think you do a really good job working with clients, especially on anything sexually related or like body related. You do a great job of going into the science behind how and why things happen. And I think especially with like sexuality, it's helpful to explain like how the female body works, the male body
Yeah.
works, or even parents, talking about like healthy sexuality, like healthy sexual development
Yeah.
for tweens and like what's helpful, what are safeguards, how to protect yourself, where to get in. And so I think you do a great job of that.
Well, thank you. I
Mm.
love talking, like, I am somebody who could nerd out on science all day. Like, that is
I
something
love
that, like, piques my own interest. Like, I wanna understand it. So I think a part of why I take that approach is because, like, that helps me. It's like, I wanna know why this thing happens, or I want
Mhm.
to know like what is. So sometimes I think, especially with sex and topics around that, sometimes again, going back to that shame thing people feel, like just talking about it from like let's talk about it from like anatomy and science and like what's happening in your
Yeah.
brain, what's happening in your body, and like what's happening in your like bodily responses to certain things and
Yeah.
biological differences actually be super normalizing to people, where it's like this isn't like a me thing, this is like a human thing.
Yeah.
And like I'm just going to give the example of like it taking longer for women to like warm up
Oh,
in like a
yeah.
sexual experience, and that is not, maybe it's not like the same, or it's not going to be the same like flipping of a switch, more like boiling water, and why that is that way. And I think sometimes for a woman to hear that and it's like, oh, like,
There's nothing wrong with me.
and foreplay starts outside of the bedroom. Like it's not. Yes. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
No.
For it. I hope she says it. I think she's gonna say it. If not, I'm gonna say it, just like waiting patiently. So I'm so glad
Yes.
you said
Well, because I think, what I mean by that too is a lot of times when we like view sex, it's like the act of sex happening or the foreplay that's happening like literally in that
like
moment in the
right
bedroom.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I say foreplay happens outside the bedroom, like foreplay is in how you're showing up for each other throughout the day. It's how you're connecting. It's like little moments of physical touch. It's my partner did the dishes because they knew I was stressed out and had a list of mile long of things to do. And, it's like being attuned to each other outside of just the moments of sex. And that helps so much because it's like if you guys are on opposite islands all throughout the day, and then it's like time for sexy time together, it's very normal that you're not on the exact same page. And I think sometimes like normalizing that, and then how can we work up to this? Like, how can we build those moments and
Yeah.
intimacy, all that kind of stuff outside of the bedroom so that
Yeah.
there is more of this like slow burn, you know?
And I think phase of life also plays a part in that because all of that, what you said is correct. But I think of like, couples with like a newborn,
Yeah.
with the female, there's a lot of hormonal changes happening. There's a lot of body changes happening. Or, thinking of like a family with like younger kids, it's not uncommon for moms to be like, I am touched out. The last thing I want at the end of the day is my partner to like want me because I'm just done. Like kids have been on me, like all of that, like I'm just done. And so, for the partner, it's like we would encourage, okay, so what can you do to maybe take stuff off of their plate so that there is a little bit more physical and emotional bandwidth for sex
Yeah.
or intimacy? Intimacy doesn't have to be like penetration every single time. It can be making out, it can be cuddling, it can be holding hands. Like there's a whole range of what that can look like based on each individual partner and the couple. And then I think of like women who are entering like perimenopause and menopause where there's a hormonal decrease. And so, thinking about science and anatomy, it's like things aren't working the way that they used to and desire or lubrication or anything like that's when typically like pain with intercourse starts, less desire. And so for us as therapists, and again, I think you probably job of anybody at the practice who does this, but talking about that science behind it and things that are happening and then also encouraging people to meet with maybe outside providers. So with the perimenopause example, like go talk to your go talk to your PCP, go talk to an OBGYN, go talk to an naturopath and see what's going on because there are things that you can do that could be helpful.
Totally. Yeah. You brought up like bodily changes and things shifting. And it's like, even, I think that's why psychoeducation and just
Mhm.
like sex ed sometimes is important in these discussions because, like, do we all agree that sex ed was like not a good education for any of us? Like, it didn't
Well,
happen.
so mine's never had it at school.
Yeah. And I had it, but it was like not like I would barely even, I think like the PE teacher taught a sex ed
Oh,
class, like
yeah.
not informative. So sometimes it's like actually just like let's like normalize some of the things that are happening. I think we all forget like we have like an experience in our body. And so like we don't know what other people are
Yeah.
experiencing. You know what I mean? And I mean, it goes even like you had brought up like the lubrication thing, depending on the time, like this goes depending on
Yep.
your cycle, there's different levels of desire. There's
Yep.
different feelings of touch that feel better and don't feel
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
There's some birth controls that make you more dry. Like all
Yeah.
of those things play into it, and that's why just having, like, an open dialogue can be, like, a really amazing step in, let's just, like, talk about these things and kinda figure out what's going on and then what we can do from there. Because there is a lot of resources, whether that's,
Yeah.
like you had said, go to the PCP, talk through some of these things, or that, like, we just need to talk about it more, listen to our bodies more, whatever it is, but, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Nothing's off limits.
Nothing's off limits. And that's why I ask about medication in
Yeah.
therapy, because we're not prescribing medication. That's outside of our scope. But it is helpful to know what our clients taking. Like you said, there could be a birth control that a client's on, and maybe they're in talking about decreased intimacy, and the birth control could be playing a big part in it. Or maybe. So that's where we would have the awareness to say, can you to your OBGYN and see if maybe that's part of it? Or do a comprehensive blood panel and see if there's something else going on, because it could be thyroid, it could be estrogen, it could be progesterone, it could be vitamin D, all of these different things that could be contributing to that. Same thing with like when we talk about betrayals, when we talk about communication, we also want to know medication, because if somebody's depressed, they might present more as angry or more shut down. And so it's like it helps us build a better picture of what's going on for the individuals and like the couple, the family, the system.
Totally.
Hmm.
Yeah, like, if you ever have a question, like, I tell not just couples this, but clients this all the time, like, if there's
Yeah.
ever something in your mind, like, "I don't know if I should bring this up. I don't
Yeah.
know if this is relevant," like, bring it up and we'll explore it. Like, if it's a thought in your mind of something that you're not sure about, just bring it up. You have
Hmm.
literally nothing to lose. Like, you are taking time out of, I think I said this at the beginning, but, like, you're taking time out of your busy schedule
To
and
be
resources to be here. So, like, let's use this time to support you, and holding
Mhm.
back from your therapist is it happens sometimes, and it's, like, nothing to be, like, shameful of. It's just let's use as much as we can.
Yeah.
You get the most healing and relief and whatever connection, communication as possible.
Well, and on that note, and we were kind of chatting before we started recording, but I think that goes into also if there is something that you're wanting to bring up end of the session, that would be a good opportunity to say, hey, I know we don't have time for this now, but can we kind of put a pin in this? Can we next time, instead of like dropping a bomb and then it's like the session's over? Because as a therapist, I fucking hate that. Not because, but I'm like, I feel so helpless. Like, I want to wrap it all up nicely, like a bow, and send clients on their way and have them feel better than when they came in. Like, if there's like
Yeah.
a bomb drop or some like disclosure, it's like there's nothing I can do with it but band-aid it and like shelve it for next time.
Mhm. Yes. No, that's so true, and I think it's yeah, I love the way that you worded that because it's not that, like, we don't want that to come out. It's the feeling for us that feels bad is, like, I wanna help this, and we don't have
Yeah,
time. Like, you're
right.
thinking like,
Happen in 2 minutes
I wish we had all the time in the world, but the reality is, like, I probably have a session
right
that's
after.
in a minute, and this is, like, something that takes time. So, if that ever comes up, like, say and maybe it's not even for the purpose of avoiding it, but maybe this is just, like, a big thing that you didn't think about until the end of session. You can always, always, always say, I just thought about this thing that is, like, really important, and I really wanna start with this next session if we could do that because I forgot to bring it up."
Mhm.
We're happy to do that. Or,
Yep.
sometimes clients will just bring it up, and I'll just say, "I
Yeah.
look at the clock. I really wanna give this the time that it needs and deserves to be processed and have the space for. But, like, realistically, we have 3 minutes left. We can't
Yeah.
really get into this. But are you okay if we start with that when I see you next week?" And usually
Yeah.
people are like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
So it's never for us, like, not wanting to go into it. It's just
We
a
want to
time.
help.
Yeah, we wanna help and it not to be, like, this rushed trying to, like, squeeze it in these last few minutes when it feels more important than that.
And I think if you are avoiding something uncomfortable and you don't want to talk about it, I would even say that too. I've been avoiding the whole session. I'm really uncomfortable. Put it out there. I did it in the last 2 minutes on purpose, but I'm doing it so we can talk about it next time. Like, say
Yeah.
that, because I think having at least for me, is helpful, because then it's like, okay, I don't have to fix this right now. We're all on the same page that this is going to happen next. And so that's what I would ask for. And I think it would be helpful. And again, it's like, we're not going to get mad because you're
No.
sharing something at the very end. We want all the things.
Yes.
We just want to make sure that we can make the most effective use of the time that we have and all of
In a safe way. And sometimes a topic
yes.
is not actual and like safe and in a, like an emotionally safe way. Sometimes it's just like it is like we, kind of giving some of that trust. Like this isn't something that we want to
Mhm.
open. We have 10 minutes left, but let's start with this. No, I love all of that. I'm glad that you brought that up because I feel like that's important. And I love that you said too, even just being transparent about like, I've been avoiding this and I really don't want to talk about it. Cause then it also gives us information of I'm going to be mindful with the way that I talk about this with you. Like, this is uncomfortable. I've even had clients before, if they're like not really sure, say this is like a client that is a little bit like not sure what they want to talk about in therapy,
Yeah.
or they don't really know what their goals are, but they know that they want to like be working on stuff. Sometimes I'll even ask the question of like, is there anything that gives you like a full body ick when you think about talking about it? Like you
I like
like
that question.
really feel like everything kind of is like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Cause that is a great information for where we probably should go. So sometimes phrasing it like that helps with people who are like a little bit unsure with what direction.
And we are going to know our clients. Like I know my clients have vulnerability. So it's a surprise when they're avoiding a talk. And again, we have that therapeutic rapport where I'm like, are you avoiding it? And like, because it's uncomfortable or because of some other reason? Like, let's even just throw that out there and talk about that. Like, talk about talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope this was helpful for anybody listening. And Adia, I always enjoy doing podcasts with you for taking time out
Yeah.
of your day to do this with me.
Sure.